we're live now. If everyone, it's unlikely that you're watching this yet because I haven't posted anywhere, but I am going to keep talking to sort of, fill any gaps in, to fill time. That's normal. All right, perfect. Okay. And posted. All right, let's mute that so I don't have to hear my voice anymore. Okay, here we are. We're back. We're officially beginning this live stream, day 7 of the Nickel Independent Film Festival online. We've got 2 great programs today. We have, and I'm going to bring them up so that I don't forget anything, because my brain is beginning to fall apart a little bit. So we've got a short program today that features the films Skin, Animal Calling, Taking Root, Margot, and Oliver's Birthday Bump. And we also have a feature short combination. The feature is Celeste from Australia, and Disconnected, which is a local short film. Both really great programs. Celeste especially everything's great. Celeste, I will also say, just like a very beautiful film. Encourage people to go check it out. But we are talking today to several of the short filmmakers from our shorts program. I'm so excited to be speaking with them. And so I think we should just get started. And so first, we're going to be talking to Alex and Sahil, for the producer-director team behind Skin. Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, I should say, Sahil, you produced the film. Alex, you directed the film.
Yes,
that's
correct.
Okay, well, yes, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks so much for sharing your film with us. It's a very, I think a lot of people are gonna find a lot of things to identify with and relate with in this film. It's a film. Maybe one of you could talk a little bit about what the film is about, the general story of the film.
I guess I'll take it. So Skin is a short film about a young couple, Addison and Brandon, who essentially are preparing for a night out in the town. They're going to a local club. And the film takes place in this apartment where the couple start to unravel, and they start to realize that they have a lot of insecurities in the relationship. And the primary theme of the film is this sense of identity and body confidence. So as the night progresses, the Addison and Brandon, the couple, start to reveal these insecurities to each other, and what it means for the relationship. And it sort of speaks to this general idea of how a lot of us has insecurities and issues with confidence that we struggle with from day to day. So the film really takes a real look at that. It takes place in this apartment in real time. It's a very slow-paced film, and
very, very naturalistic.
That was one of the things I was trying to go for really early on in it, and giving this a real authentic look into the lives of both of these characters and what they're feeling. And I would say the film doesn't really come to a conclusion at the end, but more often it's more about bringing up this issue, I would say, and putting it out there and making it kind of known, and it's okay to feel this way, and it's okay to talk about our insecurities and our body confidence issues.
That's definitely one of the things I appreciate most about the film is there's a real vulnerability to both of the characters, to the film itself. I know that it was the screenplay was by Amanda Inglese. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, it's Amanda Inglese.
Inglese, yeah. Can you both talk about, like when the two of you came onto the project? What was, what was the process of actually leading up to production like?
So Amanda and I went to school together, and we met in a screenwriting class in our last year. The story is actually based on, it's a very personal story to Amanda. It's based on her actual relationship with her boyfriend and how they struggle with their own body confidence issues. So definitely a lot pulled from real life and very specific instances of how they move through their relationship and how they work through their own issues. So Amanda and I met right at the end of our 4th year when we were starting our sort of emerging career as artists. And so I decided to take on this project as a producer and sort of bring it over to a director. Alex and I had met through an internship somewhere else, and I figured he would be a very good fit for the project. So I approached him with it, and the three of us began developing the script for the next 5 months. So this would run May to October 2018, and October it was feeling ready for camera. So yeah, we began principal photography mid-October, and yeah, I was off to the races from there.
And Alex, what drew you? What drew you to the story? What when you read the script?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times you read a script and immediately you feel a connection. I felt with this script, I immediately did. And I think one of the biggest things is that I also struggle with a lot of the same issues. And it's hard to, as a director, it's hard to admit your vulnerabilities. So I was very interested in telling a story that expressed that. And that was something I could really relate to and connect. And that connection is what drew my interest into the script. And again, the other thing with the story was it is very real. I really felt for these characters. I didn't feel it was, forced. It was very naturalistic. And this could very well be a real story in other couples and other relationships. So I think it is partly the strong connection to it and the strong connection to the characters that I could really relate to, is what drew me to it.
Yeah. Another thing I'm really curious about is yeah, like we kind of touched upon. There's a real naturalism to the film. There's a real naturalism to the dialogue, the performances. Yeah, and it also it puts like these, like I said before, these characters are in this very very vulnerable place. What was it like working with the actors, yeah, in kind of like trying to find that vulnerability, and was it hard for them, to have to have these kind of like frank discussions about their bodies and things like that?
Yeah, so you can add on as well. But I think a lot of what we did early on was in casting.
Mm,
So Addison was actually a friend of mine who I went to York with, and we were actually in a directing and acting class, ironically, where I was directing and she was an actor, and we had a professor kind of helping us. So I knew Addison as an actress way before she came onto Skin. But one of the things we did early on was really focus on casting, and that was kind of one of the things I really wanted to focus on, is casting people who could also identify with the characters as well. In terms of like how we talked about the body confidence issues, I knew after we casted them that they could embody the roles. Like I was confident in that regards. So I would say it just came natural.
mm,
It started. It mostly happened. I'm not a huge fan of rehearsals, so we did
mhm,
rehearse, but most of it happened on set, and it was organic in the sense that um, they really took to the characters, and they really knew their characters, partly because one, we casted the right actors for it, but they also were struggling with body confidence issues, or they have been, or they knew someone who has. And that's what they could draw into their own experiences. So for me as a director, I wouldn't say it was easy to direct or to go into that route of talking about body confidence issues, but there was like a common ground and a common connection so that we could kind of like all relate to a common kind of theme for what Skin was based on. And that's kind of where we built it off from there, both in rehearsals and then on set, and kind of getting the performances. And then the overall idea was to keep it very real,
mm,
because I just strongly felt like this is what a couple would look like, and this is how it would play out in an apartment, going out to the club in
mhm,
kind of real time.
mm. There's also all these underlying, this recurring theme of uh, social media. Like the kind of images that they're inundating themselves with, and their expectations, how their expectations are shaped by that. Um, yeah, do you feel like, I don't know, do you feel like film, even independent film, sometimes like perpetuates these ideas about bodies, and perpetuates the kind of body consciousness that you're
Yeah,
exploring in the film?
that was an ethical question for me because it
Yeah.
kind of comes back in a circle. Because if you're making a film about it and then you're watching it online, um, yeah, it was something that I kind of actually realized after the making Skin, in post production. I tried my best to keep it neutral, but I don't really think you could keep any storyline neutral and just unbiased. I think you have to present something that's real and authentic when you're telling a real story. And I think Skid did that. It wasn't to say that, you have to feel this way, you have to feel that way. It was just to say that this exists. This is something that people can struggle with, and it's okay to feel these kind of issues. So I think in a way, yes, it might have been like influenced a little bit, influenced people just by the images we chose and those social media streams in the film. But on the other hand, I think there's a larger context I think you have to take the film in, and that is those themes.
Well, I think, I think it's also just realistic. I think, it's like that's the kind of things people inundate themselves with all the time, right? We'll clue up soon, but I guess this is just as a kind of broad question for both of you. What do you hope people take away from this film? After watching it, because it does have a real sort of reflection of I think what so many people feel all the time.
I think a big thing for us in development and throughout this entire process was sort of a learning process to just grow within ourselves and accept the fact that we need to be comfortable within our own skin. I know both myself, Alex, and Amanda all struggle with body confidence issues, and we have been struggling with them throughout the entire process of creating this film. So when we sort of brought this film to screen and to the festival circuit, we really wanted people of all demographics just to feel like no matter what you feel is you're struggling with, what you feel is not correct within yourself, is you hopefully come to accept that through a process of learning and understanding yourself, and that your flaws really aren't flaws, and other people love you no matter who you are or what you are. So that's something that we really push throughout the film, and something that we really want everyone to take away. I mean, we had a world premiere at Relation back in November, and during the Q&A we had this like 8-year-old girl, and even she was like, during the Q&A she was like, I just think this film is like really important, like the messages that you guys are conveying with social media and body confidence, like I think this is an important film for everyone to watch, and I personally took a lot away from it. So it was really inspiring to see that everyone, I mean, even from kids all the way to adults, can feel that it is okay to feel comfortable in your own skin. You should feel comfortable in your own skin, and body confidence in no matter what shape, size, or form is something that everyone deals with to a degree. But we all have to learn through a process to come and, accept ourselves and love one another.
Yeah, I guess just to add on to what Sahil was saying is that, even though it takes place in an apartment with a couple, the theme is very much universal. And when we saw that 7-8-year-old girl in Real Asian, it was just a confirmation, like this is a real thing. And this is, this doesn't hit just people who are the age of the couple in the film or people in their 20s, 30s. This is something that's universal. And I think also in this day and age, with all the social media and so many things on TV and reality and all these ads that you're constantly seeing, it's important to know that, or see an authentic message, or see a short film that reconfirms those feelings. And, it's okay to feel, and it's okay to be who you are.
Yeah, and I think you guys did a great job with it. It's a very there's a lot of nuance to it too, in terms of, there's like conversations about gender and all these kinds of things happening in it. So it's a really exceptional film, and I'm very grateful to be able to share it. So thank you guys for sharing the film, for speaking with me today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We're very excited to share it over here today.
Yeah, same.
Great. Thanks so much. Cool. All right. Thanks to Alex and Sahil. We're going to now speak to Candace Dixon from Animal Calling. Hello, Candace.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Again, we'll kick it off if you could talk a little bit about what Animal Calling is about.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a short documentary, only about 6 minutes, exploring the mental health and sort of suicide crisis in vet medicine. It's become a pretty prevalent issue, and so we wanted to kind of bring some awareness to it, because there's still a gap between the general public knowing, as much as it's pretty well known within the vet community. there's still a lot of stigma there. So the film is following a young, recently graduated veterinarian on her sort of morning off and sort of intermittently cutting between her clinic work and her sort of routine for self-care, and trying to just promote that you're not your work. It's a heavy job, and the statistics are showing that it's wearing on people. And yeah, we're just trying to spread some more awareness and get some more conversations started.
Yeah, I certainly did not know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Once you hear it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like it's not surprising maybe, but well, I was surprised. What's the statistics like 3 to 4 more times than your kind of average civilian?
Yeah, so globally, I think it was a McGill article, it's 4 to 8 times more likely to die by
Wow.
suicide than the general population for veterinarians.
Wow, that is a horrific statistic.
Yeah. And within
Yeah.
the 5 months from like conception to completion of this short doc, there was 2 vets in the States that I heard had died by suicide, and one tech right in our area had tried to take her own life, but was found, thankfully.
Oh,
And
that's
so it was so much so fast that we kind of, it was so obvious how urgent it was right away.
And so going into making this film, did it start as did it start more broadly as, oh, I want to make a short documentary about veterinarians, or was it from the beginning, I want to make a film that very specifically like highlights this issue in the veterinary community?
So it is a student short doc. So I actually used to work in animal care before coming into film. So I sort of already knew it was an issue. I just didn't know how big of issue. And then we make short documentaries in one of our semesters in my film program at Sheridan. And the statistics got released the beginning of the year where I would be making a short doc, and I couldn't really shake them. And so when I had the chance to pitch, and I had the contacts from having been in animal care, that's what I put forward. It was kind of an easy decision to go for it.
So did you know Brittany, right, is the name of the subject of your film? Did you have a relationship with her before making the documentary?
Yeah, so we volunteered at like horse camp together.
Nice.
And then hadn't spoken in years, but had each other on social media still. And I'd forgotten she had become a veterinarian. We have probably less than a month and a half to actually develop and prep our docs before shooting. It's not much time.
No,
finding your subject. So it was just like wonderful chance that 2 a.m. I was scrolling on Facebook and she had shared something about compassion fatigue and burnout in the industry and written her own like really eloquent little caption about it, and light bulb went off, and so that worked out really well.
Often, I mean, the film really goes to some very emotional and kind of jumping off similar conversations we're having about skin, but very vulnerable places for the community, but for Brittany as well. She talks about what she needs to do. Was that an emotional experience, kind of going through that with her, or
She was, I don't think right when we were shooting, but talking about it afterwards, she sort of had quite a few revelations about it within her own life and stuff, like stuff she hadn't even really picked up on yet, and started looking at things a little differently and things that were wearing her down. And as much as compassion fatigue and burnout are kind of the 2 known factors that contribute to it being so challenging with mental health, and studies seem to focus on compassion fatigue, but when you speak to vets, it's burnout that they talk about. It's the long hours, it's you go into it thinking it's all animals and science and stuff, but really you're dealing with people 24/7. You're the therapist when a dog's being put down, and then you have to switch over to a new puppy appointment in seconds.
Yeah, I have a quote written down here: "Customer service on steroids" is what she says at one point, which I think is so interesting. Do you think people maybe don't? Do you think people don't see veterinarians? Like, I'm sure most people, when talking about a doctor or like a surgeon or something, like the toll that takes, the emotional and psychological toll, people probably like perceive of that. Like, I can understand that easily. Like, you don't really have to explain that. Do you find that that sorry, I lost my train of thought. do you find that people maybe don't like have that same understanding of people who work in the veterinary industry, that they take it for granted maybe?
Definitely, I think so. And then I think they also don't realize that just like medical doctors, vets have to follow client-patient confidentiality as well. So if they're
Interesting.
attacked online, they can't defend themselves. So there's actually this growing social media anxiety that they work with all the time. And cyberbullying is becoming a pretty big reality for them, and it sucks.
Wow.
It should
Yeah.
not be.
Yeah, that's awful. Just you know, wrapping up here now is same question really. You know, like what do you hope people take away from seeing your film?
I mean, I hope people are a little bit kinder to start with.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, to veterinarians and anyone in the profession, because techs are very much affected by it as well. And really anyone that works in animal care, you're kind of taking the people who love animals the most and have the toughest job with them. And then I think just helping to keep erasing the stigma. We try and share stories of people in the vet profession and animal care in general on our social media to hope that if someone is getting to that point, that they'll feel okay to reach out, because it's really normal. It's really obviously something that a lot of people in the profession are struggling with, and there shouldn't be any shame or stigma attached to that.
Yeah, it's I gotta say it's a really heartbreaking film, but I think an important one for people to watch. So thank you so much for chatting with me today and for sharing your film.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Candace. Okay, I think it is time now to talk to Lauren Mills about her short doc, Taking Root. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Hey, Devin. How's it going?
I am going well. Obviously, obviously maintaining all of my ability to speak and all that.
You're doing awesome. It's a long week and with lots of conversations, but you're doing good.
A long week, but a fun week. I'm having a great time.
Awesome.
I love talking. I legitimately, this is my favorite thing. I love talking to.
It's your jam.
Yeah. So Lauren, right off the bat, yes, it's the same thing. Just talk a little bit about what Taking Root is about.
Sure. So Taking Root is a short doc that was filmed over the process of 2 seasons, so 2 sort of summers and falls, featuring a forager, a chef, and another lady called Laurie, who's also a forager and chef combined. And it really explores the food security issues that are here in Newfoundland. It kind of blew my mind when I first moved here about 6 years ago. I have a lot of family here, so I saw sort of the bounty that was here growing up, the cod, the mushrooms, everything that you could go out and get yourself. But the stores weren't really showing that, and the diet and the health issues weren't really sort of correlating with my idea of what I thought was available here in Newfoundland. So I really wanted to explore and kind of reconnect with this sort of new wave of foraging that's going on with the wider community, just to show them that what is actually here on the island, and that we don't have to rely so heavily on the grocery stores that most people actually don't have access to anyway.
Yeah, there's some really alarming statistics at the beginning of your documentary that I don't have on hand, so I'm not going to attempt to cite them.
That's okay.
Because I don't want to. We'll do it poorly, I'm sure. But yeah, you know, like obviously it's one thing to sort of examine this sort of cultural phenomenon of foraging, which I think is a big part of it. We'll talk about in a second. But also this like huge issue of food security and food security in Newfoundland. So that
It's scary.
Yeah, and that was something you had in the forefront of your mind going into the project.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, my grandfather is a Newfoundlander, so I have connections here big time, but I grew up in England, and I actually grew up in a place nicknamed the Garden of England, which is Kent. And so I had real great accessibility to fresh produce, like from farmers markets were everywhere. There was a lot of really good produce from farm to table. So actually moving here and not just being here on vacation, and seeing family and going out and having, you know, boil ups on the beach and catching cod and eating their moose, but actually trying to live and buy the groceries here, I realized very quickly how difficult it is not only to get the produce shipped here, but by the time it's here, it's just really not fresh. And I sort of wanted to delve a bit deeper and just find out exactly if people's experience with Newfoundland was what I had as a child. And I kind of, just as I started to get an idea of what I wanted to do about this film, Food First and Elle brought out their statistics. And I was like, okay, so I'm not just seeing it from, you know, coming from the UK to here, it is a problem, and it's affecting people's health big time. Like it's this province is has the least amount of farms, and 84% of the communities don't have access to a grocery store. So that's, you know, that's a big deal. They're not producing their food, but they still can't get the food that they need, and it's the highest rate of cancer and diabetes as well. So I definitely think those issues are correlated.
Yeah, and it is interesting, you know, transitioning into the conversation about the cultural legacy of foraging and local food production, is that that definitely feels like something that has perhaps started happening in the last 50 years, as maybe communities have moved away a little bit from more traditional means of cultivating food, you know, things like that, fishery, obviously taking a dip, those kinds of things.
Exactly.
And I one of my favorite parts of the films is, you know, your different subjects talking about their you know, the history of like foraging with their families. Is that something that you've discovered a lot, that people have this sort of like, you know, family intergenerational connection to foraging?
Yeah, like as you know, living here, like if you go out and pick your berries or go out codging, like it's a real comfort thing. Like it takes everyone back to what they grew up doing with their parents or their nan, and it's, you know, it's a real wholesome experience that you're going out and getting food, but it's a search. Like you got to work for it. You got to go and look for your berries. You got to go and look for your moose, and it's really connecting with the land, but also a family cultural experience. And the thing that I found really interesting speaking to the subjects going through was this common thread that their, you know, a few their grandparent generations, so say sort of 50 years back, they all had chickens and cows, and they grew all their vegetables, and they foraged as well, and there was a lot of food. Like they weren't going hungry because they knew how to sort of take everything from the land but also grow as well. And then their children, unfortunately, it, you know, became this part of being able to go and work. So if you went and worked to earn money, then you didn't need to have a cow or chickens, and you didn't need to grow your food because you could go and buy tinned vegetables now with the money that you were earning. And it was just a complete sort of flip. And now I think people are starting to realize it isn't good for your health, it isn't good for your soul either, really. And they're kind of going back, and there's kind of become a bit of a wave, a bit of a sort of fashion statement, I guess, to go and get this really cool foraged food. But it's making people a lot happier, I think, too.
Your subjects, so you have like basically three sort of people talking throughout the film, you know, guiding people through this process. This is Sean Dawson, Tori, I forgot her last name.
Laurie McCarthy.
Laurie, no less, Laurie, yes. And Amanda Bowman, friend of the festival. Shout out to Sandy. Yeah, if you how did you come across these people?
Yeah, so Laurie, I actually had met in a previous role. I came here and was a marketing manager of a local chocolate company. And she was actually just starting her business, Cod Sound. So she was doing some tours for visitors to the island and sort of taking them on the beach. And we actually did a chocolate tasting together, and that's how we got connected. And she is awesome. She's such a good advocate for not only for this province and you know, the different things that we have, but actually of educating people through the whole process. Like you can go and see her and butcher a whole lamb, and she'll show you exactly how to do that, and then take it home and make your own charcuterie. But she can also take you to a beach and create a full meal out of what she picks from the beach. Like it's crazy. So she's she's definitely on the same sort of wavelength as I am in terms of bringing that to the community, and not just the people that visit here. And Sean, I actually found him on Instagram. He has, we actually were going to change focus. Originally, it was going to be a little bit more about his cats. He has 3 cats that he takes out foraging with him. You see one briefly, I think, in the film, but they go and hunt these mushrooms with him. So me and Leanne Leanne is the cinematographer in this film. We both love cats, and we got a little bit obsessed with his cats, and that's how we kind of reached out to him and said, can you be in our film? And he's so cool, but obviously the story became a lot greater than his cats. But we may go back and do that one day. And Amanda, obviously she's a friend through the film festival as well, but she was at she was working at Murray's Garden Cafe for a while there, and they are doing an excellent job of really bringing food to the table. And she's, you know, done a lot of, she's a real good advocate for food in this province as well. She does a lot of food stories and reviews, and she's a chef as well. So they were all great people to have involved in this project.
Yeah. I mean, the Ground's one of my personal favorite restaurants in the St. John's area, because not only is it, I mean, it's great produce, but it's very good food.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just wrapping up here now. What's, you know, same kind of questions for everybody else. You know, what are you hoping people will go away from this film and try their hand at foraging?
For sure. Yeah, I think to have those statistics at the beginning, like you said, I just wanted to shock people a little bit, but I think they already knew what the health issues were going on here, perhaps, and they know about foraging, but I don't think they combine the two as more of a sustainable, like it's not just something you have to do once during the summer or once in the fall, but to actually go out and make it something that you can take home and really build up a pantry and start to just explore different ways of feeding yourself and your family.
Yeah, no, it's an enlightening film. I think a lot of people will, especially here in Newfoundland, but everywhere, of course, will you know, really learn a lot from it. And yeah, and I really appreciate you chatting with me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Looking forward to seeing the films tonight.
Yes, thank you. Now, I think do we have Steffi in the chat here now?
Yeah, you do. Hello.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Steffi is the director behind Margot, which is also part of the shorts today. I'm happy you're joining us. I'm really excited to talk about your film. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll start like with the others. Talk a little bit about you know, where Margot came from. Where did the story come from?
Margot came from the experiences after finishing school and just talking and listening to other classmates or just other girls on set and how their experiences were. It happened at a time like after 2013, before Me Too happened and everything. So we were kind of in like uncharted territory in that no one was really talking about it. Like, of course, people were talking about it, but no one had passed on their personal experiences to us. So yeah. Yeah,
and you know, for anyone watching the film kind of covers the day in this young woman named Margot working on a film set or a television set. And one thing I think the film does really well is it really runs the gamut of between, you know, these kind of like microaggressions, these like small comments and things from her all male coworkers to more, you know, aggressive transgressions. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about, you know, like finding that balance and, you know, just portraying those things in a kind of like realistic way?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna throw all the credit to like the actors. I thought the actors were great, but I don't know. It's hard to say because I just like these kinds of movies. I like nuanced, understated, almost like nothing is happening type of movies. And so like it just came out when I wrote the script, and then with the actors, like they were so great, and that's why I casted them. But yeah, in general, like, yeah, that's just the type of film that I like.
Yeah, and I think it also just, you know, it creates such a lived-in world, you know.
Yeah.
And there's also this kind of parallel story happening of Margot and her relationship with her mom. Can you talk a little bit about that element of the story? Was that something you initially conceived of, having these parallels, or was that, you know, when did that come along in the sort of development?
That was an initial, yeah, that came like right away. Just the idea of family and tradition it seems like a comfortable space, but it also sometimes feels like it is an area of conflict as well. So yeah, that's why it came about pretty naturally.
Yeah. And yeah, I hesitate to ask this question because it's unfair to put to you
Yeah.
know, I don't think you alone can answer this question, but I do. This came up in yesterday's stream actually as well. I think a lot as a filmmaker, as someone who also works in film, you know,
Yes.
festivals. How often the film set is this sort of like site of exploitation, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
How do what should we be doing? Like,
What should we be having?
you know, I like
I don't know.
what? Yeah.
I don't know. It seems it's invisible, but
Mhm.
there's definitely things that could be done. I just think about the good places that I've worked in, and not necessarily film sets, like the good like I've worked at restaurants and what those environments are like, and how people just treat everyone like sentient human beings, and just like, oh, are you feeling like, just people who are emotionally intelligent. Those environments are really good, but like, I don't know the steps to make people that way necessarily.
No, I know.
Like,
That's why I'm
yeah.
like, you know,
No, but it's
yeah.
it's a good question to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think, and I think it is something people are asking a lot, and especially, you know, going forward into, you know, weirder times and just film production in general, well,
Yeah.
pandemic and stuff. Yeah, yeah, but you know, is there anything you hope people take away from this film watching it?
Um. Yeah. Just like, well, like you mentioned, it was kind of, I hope it was like understated, but I hope people see like, it's not how do I say this? The discomfort is not in these big actions that everyone can see. It's in these small little actions that add up. And just in general, like, in that time, I hope things are a bit different now, but when like someone steps on set and there's not many people like them there, that there's just this instant anxiety,
Mhm.
and what
Yeah,
it's like to feel that way. Yeah.
yeah, because yeah, like even just the stuff like, you know, like one line I've written down here is Margaret just asking her coworkers like, "Do you want me to do anything right now?" You know,
Yeah.
like that's obviously like very capable young woman is just, you know, uh, at 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 best is kind of just being ignored. And it's yeah, it's but I think it raises some really important questions and yeah, so I'm really happy that we're sharing it. Do you
Thank
have anything? Obviously, weird times. Do you have anything kind of coming up soon? Are you still
you.
making films through all this?
Yeah, yes and no. I'm really lucky, but I got a grant to make another short fiction, but I was supposed to shoot it in May, but with the pandemic, I deferred it to next year. It's really
Hmm.
sad.
Hmm. I know it's yeah, it's hard times for filmmaking,
Yeah.
but you know, I really appreciate having this conversation today. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm really thankful to be accepted to the festival and having this talk right now. It's awesome. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here for today. That's all of our filmmakers. I want to thank everyone, Lauren, Sahil, Alexander, Candace, Steffi, everyone for joining me today. Yeah, this is quickly becoming one of the highlights of my day. I love sitting here in my little cozy winter chalet and speaking with filmmakers. It really is truly a delight. I also feel like I say truly a delight a lot. I'm terrified to watch these things to discover which horrible patterns of speech I have that I don't want to know about. Really quickly before we go, I'm going to outline what we have on the go tomorrow, Monday, July 27th. We have another short program that includes Dark Choices, Louise, Wheels of Life, that's a local film from Andrea Cass, and Swallowed from Roger Monder, who started this festival. And we also have another feature short pairing with At Dawn, an Iranian film, and Dear Georgina, a short film paired with it. So I hope that you watch those films. I hope you watch these films today. It's been a real pleasure, and I will see you, the audience, not the filmmakers, but the audience, tomorrow at 1 p.m. for another fireside chat. Farewell, all.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin. Thanks, everyone.
And bye.
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 Bye.